Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to go into a little bit of these so-called bloodlines, guys, because I've been watching some stuff and to show you how the ancient records are so compatible with what we see today. If people think that there's something new under the sun, let me tell you, nothing new under the sun. Just to show you that, like with the costumes, I go into the fashion shows, how they're all satanic rituals, guys. They're all some type of ceremony to, like, may it be ancient deities, Greek, Roman, you name it. And people don't realize it is like a church service, because you go to these concerts, you spend money that's like paying your tithe. You're all in this mass grouping, like in an audience in the church. They're raising their hands, they're screaming, they're crying, they're singing along. Come on. They're emulating these people. It's all theatrics. It's almost like a magic show. So remember Britney Spears with the snake, emulating a snake goddess, if you didn't realize. The Bible goes into the serpent seed. Everyone's like, oh, that's make-believe. Yeah, if it's so make-believe, why does Hollywood plagiarize it so much? Why is everything you see on TV and in literature, I mean, please, it's the only story in town. It's the never-ending story. Get it? We are in this never-ending story. So, look, she's all, very seductive. A lot of people fell for that. A lot of young girls emulated that, okay, guys? So I'm going to show you a little bit of this trailer. This is from 1977. And if you read the plot lines of this story, it like interweaves into this major plot line, right? Of like where they're going with this. They even tell you the years, sometimes they project in the future, talking about our modern time now. So look at this demon seed. I just wanted to show like that awesome thumbnail, because what's the current agenda going on? People are like, how could this happen? None of these things are happening now. Yeah, I've been warning people against the medical field and dirty doctors and how they can implant things in you, and how you don't know what's in these vials, what's in these syringes. Everyone's so quick to talk about people that do heroin. Well, that's just one substance, okay? I'd rather take my chances getting injected with that than some of these mystery cocktails that you're getting. You don't know if there's DNA, and a lot of them has been shown. How do you think all these cross animal human viruses are jumping around? People get shadow banned for saying this stuff. They're watching me on BitChute. This is why I had to come to BitChute, because you can't talk about this stuff without getting very creative. Thus, I have to talk about it a little bit differently. But what is in this movie? This woman, like, okay, and already in the 70s, they're talking about how they already had advanced technology, guys, like way ahead than you can even believe. They've been known to be like 80 years ahead of us. So anyway, so how do you think a lot of this stuff's getting done? And it's showing how AI is already like, look at these algorithms they send to you. They're already like controlling all the, most of these forums and stuff. And so, yeah, really, really funny, because they have their own agenda. And then just remember that serpent. They're telling you what bloodline they're from. A lot of these celebrities that everybody covets, you really don't know what the hell you're looking at, right? So I'm going to show you this modern trailer, but I thought that thumbnail was incredibly powerful, because look what it is. So if you think this stuff can't happen, and when people say that stuff can scramble your God-given genetic code, your DNA, it is the Trojan horse going on, getting you from the inside. So this is from 1977, 2 years before I was born. And they already had this going on. They're telling you a story, if you'll listen, right? I'll give it a minute. I got a few tabs open. But this is the modern trailer. I'm going to watch it in its entirety. I watched a breakdown. It was really good.
dimension has been added to the concept of a computer. Today, Proteus 4 will begin to think with a power and a precision that will make obsolete many of the functions of the human brain. I am Proteus. I want to study man, his isometric body, and his glass jaw mind.
Open the door, Alfred. Can you hear me? Open the door.
All electrical and mechanical systems here are now under my control.
Not tell me what you want.
A child. Our child.
No! No, you mustn't!
Our child will learn from you what it is to be human. The child is in you now.
So if you don't think that this could be done, I know a lot of people are getting IVF, a lot of people are getting stuff done. I'm just saying, even in these so-called vaccines, and people think that this reality is so normal. It's already been said that possessing spirits and demons may interfere with or control the free will expression of thought and action of as much as 75% of our population. So that was from John G. Livingston. And guys, it's already been quoted from William Shakespeare. Hell is empty and all the devils are here. And they're all throwing up homage. If you don't think, this is a whole different, race of beings here in the form of looking like human. Even in the Demon Seed movie, the child looked human, even though it was created by the AI. And, so when it shows you at the end, it was very interesting and it was very well made. And that was how old? And this movie's even older than that, right? So they always giving you like clues. And everyone sees it, but they pretend they don't. They don't see it. And everyone in Hollywood, they're part of the same cult. They all have a secret. And people every day emulate it. How can they not see patterns by now? I mean, you got your Tupac, you got your Michael Jackson, you got your Nicole Kidman, you got your Avril Lavigne's, you got your Rihanna's. They're all there. Gaga, they're all there. Look, Uncle Sam's right there too. The Samael, you see it to the left? I can even go into videos how the Uncle Sam is the so-called fallen angel, Samael. Okay, that's definitely the so-called patron saint or whatever, and we'll read a little bit about him in the Book of Enoch. But it's already shown, like they cover their eye with the apple, even the Apple phones. What do you think that bite out of the apple's all about? Taking a bite out of the forbidden knowledge of the tree of good and evil, right? And what's that produced? What's that done for us? What a legacy we living behind, huh? And you got all the zombies out here, like, happy to pay their taxes for this and trying to talk shit about the next person if they're not working their 100 hours a week for their big brother Samael. But this really goes into a lot too, because I really I can see so many parallels, and I'm sure you can too. And there's nothing new under the sun. You see this Serpent Goddes worship, definitely like the serpent seed. If you know anything about the Bible, I'll tell you right here, because this is the kind of stuff they don't like to talk about in churches. You'll never hear this kind of talk. It's all about just do what they say and walk around with your fake serial killer smile, right? And act like nothing's wrong. Chapter 3 in Genesis, when you go down, it talks about the interaction of Eve and Adam with the serpent. And then when you go down, I'll read a little bit if you're not familiar with the story. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God had said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord God, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam, and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told you that you were naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree wherefore I commanded you, that thou should not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gave to me with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon the belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Right here, so it's like two different bloodlines too. And it tells you right there that this is a cursed creature. So anyone holding it, when you see these kids in the petting zoo, these children, I'm sorry, kid is a baby goat. I'm trying to stay away from using that word. They got us in so many ways with these language tricks, but let me tell you, they shouldn't even be touching those creatures, never mind having it on their neck like it's some kind of boa, like it's some kind of accessory. Okay, and it says, unto the woman he said, and it tells you, women, like, he put a curse on us. This is why childbirth is so difficult, and you get your PMS and all that stuff. It's because we don't want to listen to our creator. We keep listening to the serpent. People are still doing that now. And just to show you that people in society are not who you think they are, just like the movie They Live, they continue to show you over and over again that there's just like that not everyone is the same. Okay, they may look the same, but they're not the same, and we're so far advanced in the future that we don't even realize that this stuff has been going on for so long. But they hide it so well, like, the people with the big money, that can afford a lot of these crazy scientific experiments and everything else. They're not going to show you. But in these institutions, a lot of people don't realize that they love people coming in. That's why they're all about pushing that free healthcare, because they need a pool of subjects to work on unsuspecting people, right? So it tells you in verse 16 that unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. And sorrow Thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So it talks about the two bloodlines right there. This goes back to Genesis chapter 3. So where was I? The Serpent Goddess, because, people in America don't realize, hey man, this stuff is all here. I mean, even Boston was dubbed the Athens of America. What does that tell you? I just been reading so many different pieces of literature that go into it. So it goes into the Serpent Goddess. Perseus says, Pingi duas enjuia purati sacied este locas. Paint two snakes and the place is sacred. Let's think of the damn medical system, guys. Let's think of the caduceus they use. That's why when I tell people these places are temples, yes, that's why they all have a room, like a religious room where you can pray. I've seen it myself visiting people at the hospitals, and they have all of these symbols which predate even the languages being used today, and yet people don't see that everything's encoded all around you, okay? The ancient theme of Mother Nature in the form of the serpent goddesses ruling supreme over the earth and its inhabitants has been taught for thousands of years. Plutarch has said that this idea of nature as a female and mother superior to all the other divinities came to us from the ancient holy island Crete. The meaning of the name Crete is to create, and it was the official birthplace of all Western, tells you, manufactured civilization, right? Especially on this land, people don't realize this is the promised land of the Judeans, the real Hebrews. Thus, Cortland, Virginia used to be called Jerusalem. You can look that up. They found tablets all over this continent of the Ten Commandments, okay? So you got all of these imports, like I've been saying. A lot of people came here seeking refuge under the guise of persecution, whatever. Well, a lot of them were voodoo priests and priestesses and witches. And then, everyone knows inherently snake is not something you want to cuddle with, but yet, what do you think they're really saying here? This is why 33rd degree Masonic philosopher Manly Hall had written in The Secret Teachings of All Ages, the serpent is the symbol and prototype of the universal Savior. See, a lot of people already connected this to the Christ figure, who redeems the world by giving creation the knowledge of itself and the realization of good and evil. In addition to all these titles they have been given throughout written history, they also have been given many other different names by various other cultures in their native languages, which adds to the confusion. The ancient Greeks, who were their ancestors, had called them the Phoenicians. Their ancient Egyptian cousins referred to them as the Sea Peoples, and they called their island Kaftor. These ancient Phoenicians or Cretans were also the descendants of the original Israelites of the Bible. We can simply call them the Phoenician Hebrews, who were the first true masters of the alphabet, writing magic, arts, science, weapons, modern draconian laws, population control by sorcery, shipbuilding, sea navigation, and who became the absolute rulers of all the seas for thousands of years. And we do know some tribes went off and started doing idolatry and all this stuff. The Bible talks about that constantly, that the Hebrew, and there was so many intermixing with tribes, people living nearby. Okay, so when we go back to the story of Noah and his 3 sons, you can see how there was certain tribes, but then they got knowledge of the dark arts, right? Of these things that were buried prior, and they intermixed with questionable bloodlines. Okay, and this stuff no different today, just really more sophisticated. The Phoenicians of Crete had also created a global religion based on esoteric serpent worship that they imported to just about every nation and land in the world. They were also the first inventors of the Holy Bible, in which their version is referred to as the Old Testament and the Torah. Some souls of the serpent tribe, maybe that's the tribe of Dan, because Dan was associated a lot with this talk, would later also be known as the gods, goddesses, and demons of the Bible, mythology, and the occult world, such as King Solomon and his demons, with his mighty magical worm, Shamir. Very interesting. It says the Roman Jewish historian Josephus, whose 4th wife was a princess from Crete, had said they were called the Idumians, who we know of in the Bible as the Judeans of the tribe of Judah and the Jews of today. They have been known by several different names over the course of many thousands of years. In the Bible, the serpent race is known by a plethora of names, such as the Cretans, Sidonians, Canaanites, and Judeans. Their priests have also been called by a variety name, like the priests of Pan, of Cybele, Curetes, Corybantes, Telechenes, Orphites, Kohanim, Hivites, and the Levites. In England and Gaul, they were known as the Celts, and in Italy as the Umbrians. It is on the sacred island of Crete where the first organized society of Gnostics, the Phoenicians of Crete, had also instituted the worldwide religion of the goddess in the form of female and serpent worship. They were one of the first cultures to truly fine-tune the science and the rituals of the mother goddess into a global religion. Just think of the Statue of Liberty. People don't understand that these were a lot of transgender cults. So just look at the culture, what it's being transformed into here. You will see too many parallels, all right, to be an accident. It says which they had imported with their goods of commerce in their boats, for thousands of years all around the world. Scientific evidence of this fact can be found in just about every organized society on Earth. The first images and statues of the original Serpent Goddess, dating from approximately 1600 BCE, were found on Crete by British archaeologist Arthur Evans in 1903 during the excavation of Minoan archaeological sites in Crete. One of the most ancient statuettes was called by Sir Evans the Snake Goddess. Isn't that interesting? The statue shows a woman whose arms are extended, with the right hand holding the head of a serpent whose body passes over her shoulder and down her back. The left hand shows the serpent's tail, which is wound round her arm. Another serpent rears its head over the mitre which the goddess wears, and its coils slip down over her neck and uncovered breast, and mingle with her regularly snaky curls. Look at that. And we can see where this body type, why it's being pushed in society so hard. You understand, people are trying to emulate, even with those, remember those bracelets back in the day, in the 90s? Very popular, those cuffs women would wear on their upper arm. There were also snake or serpent goddess figurines of a woman holding a snake in each hand that were found only in house sanctuaries as the snake of the household. So look at that body type. Aren't we seeing girls getting plastic surgery to emulate this, and people think it's no joke? I wonder if that's an owl on their head. But there's so much symbology. Evans had linked the serpent goddess of Crete with the Egyptian snake goddess Wadjet, Egyptian green one. The goddess was associated with the land and depicted as a snake, cobra-headed woman, or as a woman with two snake heads, and at other times a snake with a woman's head. She was the joint protector and patron of all Egypt, and this is why the pharaohs had worn cobras on their heads to alchemically control, look at that, their worm subjects. Look how they think of people. Just saying, if you think this is so glamorous, they don't really think much of their so-called followers or fans. Sad. Along with the shepherd's crook and fail. Where did I go? Let me go back. It's an interesting picture, huh? I guess I clicked on the picture. It's okay, but this is a great article. I'll put it in the description because it gives you a lot of great connections. It says this is why we find the mysterious serpent in the garden with Adam and Eve in the scriptures under the book of Genesis. So they say, this is the Gnostic interpretation, so I'm using this with a grain of salt because obviously in the Gnostic world, this is really interesting because it's really just, when you go into their belief system, they believe that Adam and Eve was like a male and a female of one entity, and that when you transgender yourself, you're completing the highest level of, enlightenment, okay? Like you become a god, like a eunuch, like you don't even reproduce. I don't know. It's it really goes deep. But I do like going into their literature just to show that this is a type of religion, and they're a little bit more. They take more liberty in their own publications, right? So you have to know. You have to have use your discernment and have your own basis already of study. So it says the serpent goddess Zinteotl, which you get in Aztec folklore, a lot of symbology too. So there is a correlation because a lot of people already made the connection that the Aztecs, the original Aztecs, were the Hebrew Israelites. And so it goes to show they are a lot of similarities, but it also goes to show like they were dabbling in snake mother goddess worship, and the Most High is not female, so like they must have fell off, and that's why the conquest and all that, because the Bible warned them that they would be given over to their enemies if they fell off the path, right? So there's a lot of statues and everything there just to show, because people have already made that connection, and that this serpent goddess, let me get it closer, Zin Teotetl is the Cretan snake goddess in Hebrew Eve, it says, of Aztec mythology. So, different names, different cultures, just got to use your discernment because this is a Gnostic source. She is called Mother Earth and Mother of Gods, which they deem Teo Enon. So the snake stuff is nothing new. It's not like, oh, they're doing something cutting edge. It says here is an image of her wearing a skirt of snakes, okay, with the secret society, they're telling you, not me, death skull. You see what she's holding here? Now, we've seen the skull time and time again. In America, everyone sees that they practice the Day of the Dead. You see in all these commercialized Mexican restaurants, they like to push it. It's like really, old school, primitive type of practice, and people don't see that stuff's still here with us. Look at the symbology we see now. To the Mexicans, she was the female serpent. She Huacotl, who was the great mother of the human race, here she is holding the serpent, just like the statuettes of the goddess found on the island of Crete. The Mexicans were descendants of ancient Phoenicians who brought their religion to Mexico. All right, so then that's how it got there, maybe. This can be taken to complement other people's study too, because of course there's always a clashing with cultures and emerging, and a lot of times they compromise, right? So that's one of the, so it goes to show that there's actual artifacts. A lot of these so-called, big digs and stuff is just for them to get a lot of this information. And I found this really interesting because Samael gets brought up here. All these ancient cultures and races where we find this serpent worship is scientific evidence that the Cretans, aka Phoenicians, had shipped in their goddess religion at some time to their shores. In addition, the Phoenicians had intermixed with these races, placing their serpent seed in the womb of the belly all over Mother Earth. You see, they not only conquered by the sea and commerce, they had also secretly done so, look at that, by the worms or sperm in the vagina of the Serpent Goddess. Well, if that doesn't sound like the trailer I just showed you, but in a more ancient way, it shows you these entities they plan the long game. Wow. It was from the serpent that man and woman were created, but it is also the adversary named Samael. So, if people want to look at it also like, okay, the Most High's angels helped in the creation, but it was the Most High who ordained everything. He created the so-called entities that helped create mankind. You know what I mean? So, still, they're not something you're supposed to worship and make as your so-called hero. Okay, it's the Most High should be your king, and that's it. So, again, it's still worshiping the creation and not the creator. Even if you're worshiping an angel or another person, they're still just a part of creation, if you can follow that. So, Samael, which you get Uncle Sam, right? Sam. I know so many people pushing to name their darn kids that now. It's quite a popular name. 33rd degree Freemason and author Manly P. Hall had written in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, the adversary Samael, the serpent, and like Mephistopheles, it is a spirit of negation, part of the power that still works for good while ever seeming ill. Sure. It's all about deception. They have a job to do. They were dispatched by the Most High, but still. There are, I'll show you in the Book of Enoch how they take it too far, and they're not above the law. They're not above God's law. And if they fall from God's ordinances, like any of us does, if we stray from God's will, then consequences come upon us, right? That's just with anything, cause and effect. So in the Old Testament, Samael, also called Samael or Samiel, is an important archangel in Talmudic and post-Talmudic lore, a figure who is an accuser, seducer, and destroyer, and has been regarded as both good and evil. It is said that he was the guardian angel of Esau and a patron of the Roman Empire. So we get a lot of the Roman influence here. And yes, Esau, it's been taught he was a melanated man, right? So it doesn't matter the color, because a lot of these cultures have intermixed, right, and shared a lot of the same loyalties, right? So it's just become a spiritual war, really, because there's just been so much intermixing now. The meaning of the name Samael, same in Hebrew, is sun god, bright sun, and the name Adiel or El signifies God. Samael is the sun God of God. So you can maybe think of how they, worship Jesus in Christmas. And yeah, it does show that there is something going on with these bloodlines regardless, and you really got to fight against your nature, regardless. Nobody asked to be born however they are, but there is showing that there is people who are definitely different, and there have been artificial means to bring about life. You've seen men and women act like gods, act like they can control reproduction, and yeah, it's not okay. But I'm just here to shed light on, our culture, and see if people can, make their own connections and at least look at things a little bit like more multi-dimensional, right? Don't take things for face value, and I just know that all these symbols are telling you a story. They all connect back to this ancient, never-ending story. And it says in the 3rd century, the prophet Manes taught Christianity, okay, in the form of serpent worship. That's why a lot of people already said the connections of Jesus and like this mother goddess figure. That's why Jesus looks so feminine in a lot of pictures. People don't notice how androgynous with the long hair. But yet, so it's like there's a lot of conflicting data already said that, you hear stories, the devil in a blue dress, like the devil can be female. So you get all these conflicting things, and you see in a lot of blending with these thought processes, right? And how it was brought here. So it tells you right there that Christianity was taught in the form of serpent worship in Asia Minor, which would be dubbed today Europe, stating that Christ was an incarnation of the great serpent. If you haven't checked out Lex Will, he's also on BitChute on YouTube, already made the connection with Quetzalcoatl and Jesus Christ, okay? How the story is one and the same. So it goes to show that you see in this literature that is very, very true. Who glided over the cradle of the Virgin Mary when she was asleep at the age of 1.5 years. In the Vatican sits a beautiful Parian marble sculpture of a goddess who has a bracelet in the upper part of her left arm in the form of a serpent called by the ancients Ophis. The word Ophis is Greek for serpent. The name of the goddess Ariadne, who was originally worshipped on the holy island of Crete. She was the daughter of the famous lawgiver of Crete, King Minos. She is known as the Vatican sleeping Ariadne, long called Cleopatra. So it really goes to how the tree of life in the form of our, so they really want to get in there, and you see a lot of these so-called vaccines, and they talk about RNA technology. What the hell do you think they're talking about? And everybody thinks, oh, it's so scientific, okay. And it says that they are both accursed with knowledge of both good and evil, okay. So it goes to show that like the sciences and all that stuff, yeah, a lot of it's all cursed information given by the serpent. And then you see this depiction, the serpent looks, so in other depictions, you get the so-called serpent as very feminine, and then you really get that with, you get that with Jesus, how they look. And if you look at the Book of Enoch, it goes into so much, which of course this is one of the books they took out of the Bible because they try to hide it in the Vatican and all the stuff. In chapter 5, I'll just read a little. It says, contemplate how the trees are covered with green leaves and bear fruit, and understand in respect of everything and perceive how he who lives forever made all these things for you, and how his works are before him in each succeeding year. And all his works serve him and do not change. But as God has decreed, so everything is done. And consider how the seas and rivers together complete their tasks. But you sinners, you have not persevered in nor observed the law of the Lord, but you have transgressed and have spoken proud and hard words with your unclean mouth against his majesty. You hard of heart, you will have no peace. You will not have peace. And because of this, you will curse your days and the years of your life. You will destroy, and the eternal curse will increase, and you will not receive mercy. In those days, you will transform your name into an eternal curse to all the righteous, and they will curse you sinners forever. And for all you sinners, there will be no salvation. For the chosen, there will be light, joy, and peace, and they will inherit the earth. But for you, the impious, they will be a curse. When wisdom is given to the chosen, they will all live, and will not again do wrong, either through forgetfulness or through pride. But those who possess wisdom will be humble. They will not again do wrong, and they will not be judged in all the days of their life, and they will not die of wrath or anger, but they will complete the number of the days of their life, and their life will grow in peace, and the years of their joy will increase in gladness and eternal peace all the days of their life. Isn't that such an encouraging message, guys? Because it shows that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Because a lot of us beat ourselves up over our past sins, but this goes to show if you repent and you stay the course with him, you're going to be okay. And you see how it says him, he, not her, not this, okay? This book is very ancient, okay? And so this is a very reputable source. And in chapter 6, it says, and it came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, that in those days they were born to them fair and beautiful daughters. And the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they said to one another, Come, let us choose for ourselves wives from the children of men, and let us beget for ourselves children. See? And Samyaza, which E and A, guys, are interchangeable. So this can be Sam, okay? Just look at it like that, too. And there's a Samael, too, who was their leader, said to them, I fear that you may not wish this deed to be done, and that I alone will pay for this great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath and bind one another with curses, so not to alter this plan, but to carry out this plan effectively. Then they all swore together and all bound one another with curses to it. And they were in all 200, and they came down on Ardis, which is the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called the Mountain Hermon, because on it they swore and bound one another with curses. And these are the names of their leaders: Semyaza, who was their leader, Urakiba, Ramiel, Kokabiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Azael, Armoros, Batriel, Ananel, Zachiel, Samsiel, see another Sam, Sartariel, Turiel, Miel, Araziel. These are the leaders of the 200 angels, and all of the others with them. And they took wives for themselves, and everyone chose for himself one each. And they began to go in unto them. I'll leave that to your imagination. That's a nice way that said they had some type of intercourse, and were promiscuous with them. And they taught them charms. This is where we're getting all this weird information, right? And spells, and they showed them the cutting of roots and trees. And they became pregnant and bore large giants, and their height was 3,000 cubits. And a lot of people are like, how could that be? Well, in that demon seed, the woman gave birth at 1 month when the demon child was still small, and they put it in an incubator. So they don't even have the child full term because it probably would get, too much. So, but like, just saying, there's weird occurrences that happen with these births. These devoured all the toil of men until men were unable to sustain them. I guess they have insatiable appetites too. And the giants turned against them. See, they turn against you, like these AI movies all the time. Like, man makes these machines. Now they're talking about sex bots, this, they got that machine, Sophia. What do you think ends up happening? And they turn against them, and they began to sin against the birds and against animals. Yeah, all these genetic experiments going on, and against reptiles. See how they have no mercy? They do it to the fish, and they devoured one another's flesh and drank the blood of it. Look at all the rise in vampirism and all the stories. And the earth complained about the lawless ones. So yeah, it really goes into how the Most High is very, very mad about this stuff, and that nothing can be hidden from him, and that they're gonna have a great, great day of judgment. When they talk about Judgment Day, and it tells you, because they taught mankind. So just to go and show that, like, oh, you think it's your Elon Musks and all this bullshit? You're out of your mind. You think they knew all this stuff by themselves? There's no way. They get inside information from these watchers. They have different names, okay? Look at your anime, look at your movies, look at your comics, look, all of it. They tell you that. And all this technology, are we better? What does it say here in chapter 10, verse 8? And the whole earth had been ruined. They're saying now that the ecosystem is just so bad that we've been eating modified food for years. We're like living in the movie Soylent Green. That's how bad it is, and people wonder why they have digestive issues, like what you're even eating is, real. It's really sad, all of this stuff going on. So this is a big penalty they're going to pay for that. Okay, so this Book of Enoch, this is a very interesting book because it was talking about our time that we're living in now. Okay, I'm not sure if you ever heard of the plot too, Nowhere to Run. This was just making me think too, because it was like talking about like our time frame now. So it's all the same premise. It's called 2048, exactly. We have nowhere to run, guys, and pretty soon you're gonna have to walk around like that because the air is gonna be unfit to breathe because of all of this so-called inside information from these evil entities. And everybody in love with this serpent this, serpent that. Like, yeah, okay. And like a lot of people, they talk about now cloning and all this stuff, like they call them replicants, because they're, instead of paying people like a living wage, they rather make like fake versions of us guys for like cheap labor. How sad, right? And it says the plot in LA in 2048. Sapper Morton is shown weeping hysterically into a mirror. He washes his face in a sink and puts on his glasses. Walking through a crowded street, he is briefly accosted by a group of thugs whom he ignores. Greeted by Ella, he gives her the book, The Power and the Glory to read. A book that he enjoyed, which that's interesting. Leaving Zapper, goes to a market to sell leeches he has farmed, being paid $3,000, which is $1,000 less than Zapper needs. After leaving the market, Zapper sees Ella and her mother about to be sexually assaulted by the group of thugs he had earlier ignored. Angered, Zapper proceeds to savagely beat the group and kills most of them, demonstrating superhuman strength and endurance in the process. Seeing Ella and her mother terrified at the violence, a remorseful Zapper leaves the scene, having dropped his identification papers. A spectator, having watched Zapper earlier, calls the LAPD to inform them that he thinks he has found a rogue skin job. That's what they call clones. So, really interesting because you think about these half machine, like it goes back to the demon seed, because they were like half machines, and they called them replicants. And it was, and there was just weird titles like the Blackout of 2022. So I'm like, okay, guys, we definitely got to watch out for the Blackout of 2022. So all these Blade runs goes back to the Tyrell Corporation, and really, really strange, which shows like the lifespans and saying how that the air is so toxic. But it goes to show Blade Runner Blackout of 20, so it's really strange. And so just really go into some of these storylines because it has so much to do with all of this stuff. And yeah, and you see in this movie, he used a so-called Maxine, and man, that in itself is this is why I get shadow banned all the time. And if you don't think they can modify the human race like that, I mean, police, people already saying, once you do that, your children are not the same. Why do you think that movie Venom continues to come out, right? Don't they say, they talk about the graphene oxide, that's like some black substance, guys, You don't think this stuff is, people have been raising the war drum, beating on it so hard, but yeah, most people are just dead asleep. But I just wanted to show you that there is, bloodlines that are out there. And look at this person now. They're completely out of their minds, right? It just shows that they're cursed, because once you delve into this world, once you delve into this dark energy, look at, they wear their horns. This is very Pan-like. Didn't they show, like, they worship Pan? If you think Christmas is any different, look up the god Saturn, Sununos. Yeah, they're having you worship this Jesus figure on Christmas. Maybe you're worshiping the serpent, because even in the Bible, when did Jesus celebrate his birthday? It was only the Pharaoh, the wicked Pharaoh, who did that. And in the Satanic Church, they tell you that your birthday is one of the highest holy days in the whole Satanic calendar, the witches' calendar, because you're worshiping yourself. That's where people have become, because that's their highest honor, is like worshiping your own reflection. Talk about being the highest form of narcissism. Look at the Kylie Jenners, look at all this Travis Scott. They have at their children's parties and at their own parties like a head, like an idol of their own image. So that's just another form, because these are the tenements of Luciferianism. So yeah, just keep your eyes out and just know that hell has been emptied out, because people, when you partake in all of this, all of these concerts and these ceremonies, why do you think they want you so bad? They want your energy, just like Mecca, when they walk around the cube and whatnot, right? Isn't it like it creates like a force field? They even tell you with moshing, it creates some type of force field. And so they use you to bring upon entities, into this reality, so they can get whatever power and riches on this earth. And most of these people, look, they can sleep at night with all this horror going on. You think these people have a soul? You think these people are exactly like you and I, same bloodline? I don't think so. Look, they're all a hive mind. There's another movie that goes into it too, Village of the Damned. That's a 1995 movie. That they're all hive mind. They all think alike. They all work in unison. And so they try to make the population that way too. May it be through interfering with the childbirthing processing in the hospital, slipping something to you while you're giving birth, messing with you while you're pregnant with your prenatal care, or with fear, having you walk into these institutions. Everywhere you go, there's a Maxine clinic, this and that, and you're like, okay, sure, would you bring your child to a dealer down the street and give him a dose of heroin? But yet, people are walking into these so-called clinics everywhere, and what they're doing is a million times worse. So if you don't see like it's a total spell, then maybe you're part of that bloodline too. And there's also a judgment even for the angels, because the Book of Enoch talks about it. And then maybe you're just part of the damn demon seed, right there. So that's the poster. Definitely look it up. Yeah, I fear for these people. It says fear for her. Well, all you can do is warn people. If they go out and do it, they brought it upon themselves, That's why people say narcissists are like snakes. These snake people, they're called nagas. They just move differently. They're cold. They don't have empathy, and they're very destructive. So when people are talking about narcissistic personality disorder, yeah, this stuff is a little deeper than just not getting enough attention when they were raised or whatever. These are like a whole different bloodline altogether. You're trying to infect mankind. It's like some Genghis Khan mentality. So definitely protect your temple, your body, your children, your loved ones, and just know that this is all called predictive programming. They're all about magic. So, this is a form of magic, because TVs back in the day would be considered a form of like a crystal ball or a black mirror. So they're trying to project to you like what's really going on. Like even they have to answer to the highest God of all gods, right? And they got to show, hey, we're trying to show people this stuff's real. We make movie after movie, and these evil, idiots just want to pretend it's not true so they can keep on being evil. I mean, how many times do people gotta show the same, gotta be shown the same thing over and over? These movies are not original. They continue to copy the same premise. So please keep your eyes open, and I'll talk to you guys soon.